Hey there, and welcome back to another episode of Foot Traffic. I'm your host, Stacey Tuschel, and today I get to interview Julie Voris. Julie, I am so excited to have you on the show. Thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. So before we dive in and get to the good stuff, I would love for you to share a little bit of your entrepreneurial journey, how you started and how you got here today, and then we'll just take it from there.
Okay, sounds good. It's so interesting. I was just talking about this a little bit with my team because when I grew up in this teeny tiny little town in the Midwest with literally a cornfield in my backyard and graduated from a teeny tiny little high school, there were no female entrepreneurs in my life. I
Yeah.
didn't see that in any way. If whatever you were doing as a female, you were either staying at home as a parent, you were maybe a teacher, or you were maybe a nurse, but no one was an entrepreneur in any way that was a female. And also, I'm in the health and fitness industry. No one worked out that I saw. So I kind of came into this, I always say I fell into fitness because I grew up and did the traditional path, as did everyone else in my tiny little town. I went to college, I became an English teacher, which I think was the right path for me at the time. I was greatly influenced by my English teacher. I love to read. I love to teach. I just didn't know I'd probably be teaching in another sort of classroom someday down the road. You got to get that experience first. But I remember student teaching. And I remember after that first day going back to my car going, so I have to do this again tomorrow, just like this. And then I remember a few years into teaching and going, wow, okay, like some people actually do this for like 40 years. What?
Yeah.
This can't be. And because my husband's job is transient, my husband's a college football coach, and because his job is transient, we ended up moving when I was 8 months pregnant.
Okay.
Which meant a new doctor at a new hospital at 8 months pregnant. I already had two, in this brand new town where I knew no one. And he was the head football coach at a college so this was his first head coaching job. And we knew no one. So we joined the local YMCA, and I had since stopped teaching high school and was home because of this transientness.
Yeah.
And when we moved to this new town and, tried to settle in, it had been a pretty tumultuous year up to that point, in that here I am pregnant with number 3 moving. We've got 2 others. He's got his first head coaching job. My father had just passed away from a pretty aggressive form of cancer. Our dog had died. Jenna started kindergarten. Josie started preschool, newborn, but like all the things that are the big stressors, especially in a female's life, happened to me in about the span of, 4 months.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, well, if I can get to the YMCA and work out at the 9:30 class, whatever it happened to be, I'll figure out the rest of the day from there. And that's where I fell into this deeper connection with fitness and life. I had always been someone who couldn't sit still, even when I was teaching high school English. But when I made that connection between, all right, it really is true. If I could do that 9:30 class, I could kind of figure out this grief process and this new mom process and all this new town process, all of this kind of stuff much better than if I hadn't done that. And it wasn't too long after I was taking some classes, just a couple months, when the group exercise director said to me, I've seen you taking class and I'd like you to start teaching. I'd like you to start next month. And it was such a like, what kind of moment? But when I went home and said to my husband, I'm like, what do you think about this? He's like, well, you love to teach and you love to move. So I'm really almost surprised you hadn't thought about this before. And it was a no-brainer for me because at the time we were so poor that I thought, okay, cool. If we can join the Y, but I can teach and I can get paid for it and my kids can get free lessons, this is a win-win. This is a win-win all around. And it just sort of snowballed from there because I just didn't really get in my own way. I didn't know what I didn't know. So I just kept following my curiosity, not my passion, because I didn't know at the time that was my passion. I loved teaching. I knew I didn't want to be a high school English teacher the rest of my life. And I knew I wanted more agency over my life. I didn't know how all of this was going to transpire. I just sort of kept following my curiosity, and it kept leading me down this health and fitness path, which led from, teaching 1 class to 3 classes to 5 classes to becoming a master trainer to now having an online health and fitness business. And it just kept leading me, and I just kept walking and figuring it out. And it's kind of interesting when you think about it that I never saw anyone do that. I just kind of figured it out, but also no one ever told me that I couldn't. So
Yeah.
I just kept going. And I think the rest of my family was like, I don't know what she's doing over there. So we're just not even going to ask her. And I just kept moving forward. And, almost 20 years after teaching my first class and 12 years after starting my online business, here we are, the vastly different life that was forever changed by one conversation on a blue bench in the lobby of a YMCA, to which I said yes,
Yeah.
with no idea of what I was doing.
Yeah. And just, going back there, you could have said, "Oh no, I mean, this isn't what I do. I'm not an instructor,
I'm not
right?"
qualified. I'm not qualified.
There's
Uh-huh.
so many things you could have said, but that
Uh-huh.
one yes, like you said,
Changed
completely.
the course of my life.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's incredible. So, oh my goodness, I love this story. And I love just hearing that like you said, you didn't know what you didn't know. That's why I always tell people, when I look at what I built, I started when I was right out of high school. So I always say I was so naive. I didn't know that this was going to be hard. And I
Yeah.
just kept doing. And then I got here. And
Yeah.
that was like such a huge thing, is to just be okay with not knowing what you don't know and
Mm-hmm.
just continue to move forward. So I love that. So you've been doing this now, you said how many years? 12 years in the online space?
12 years in the online space,
Wow.
almost 20 years teaching live group classes. And to
Okay.
me, honestly, the live group classes and the online space is super similar. I'm creating kind of the same experience. One just happens to be virtual now, which is super cool, because now I get to have conversations with mostly women from all over the world that I would never know without this, social space.
Mm-hmm.
And I certainly had no idea that it was going to be at this place, this many years into it. But I also think we don't know how our kids are going to turn out either. And somehow we managed to figure out how to put a diaper on and figure out how to potty train. Like we don't give up. We continue to figure it out. And I don't know why sometimes women think that it should be any different in business.
Right.
I certainly did not know how to put a diaper on
Right.
when we brought baby one home, and somehow she had a diaper on. So we figured that out. And I think it's the same in business, that especially now, my gosh, in 2020, there's nothing that's not free available on the internet that we can't figure out now. It's just sort of giving ourselves space and grace to do so, and knowing that we are going to suck sometimes, and that's all sort of part of it. And the interactions and the conversation, I think if your heart is just in the place to continue to follow your curiosity and to continue to get better in some way every day, even the sucky days are learning days, because you're just going to not suck as bad the next day, hopefully.
Right.
Hopefully.
Well, so you have brought up before, like making showing up be your superpower. I can only imagine how many times you've had to just show up when it's hard, or you've made a mistake, or you've just had a really big fail. Can you give some examples, or just a story that even comes to mind of overcoming something when you didn't want to show up, but that has really been something that has helped you?
I think one of my biggest struggles, if that's the right word, or challenges or whatever, is just communicating what is in my heart in words that make sense to my team and to it. Like, I know what I'm feeling, and I am such a Scorpio type A, passionate, person, that sometimes, and I can be kind of a pusher, because I just want everyone to live this extraordinary life. But that doesn't always excuse the fact that sometimes I don't communicate in the way that I need to communicate, which is me kind of coming at it with this unbridled passion. Like, I know you can do more. I know you can. I know you can. And maybe a gentler touch is required. Maybe a different communication is required. Maybe a hands off is required. And I feel like I am learning that all the time. And at some point in my life, I feel like, are you not going to learn this? But that's just also part of being human. I mean, you can't expect yourself to, again, you have to give your own self space, space and grace to make mistakes. And you can't always control what the other person is hearing, receiving, what they're hearing and receiving, and where the space that they're in. But I think that is my biggest struggle, is really getting out in words in the correct tone. When I should, and also knowing when I should not, what is truly in my heart. Because if I think about what's in my heart, it's 100% of the time motivated by what I see in them, but I don't always communicate that the best. So that is a constant work in progress.
Well,
for me.
For somebody that's been in business now for so long, I think you can probably look back and reflect on times where you did those weaknesses or those struggles, but you didn't even recognize you were doing it. Now you're in a place where you're saying, I still sometimes do it, but you recognize you're doing it.
Correct.
And I'm the same way.
Self-awareness.
Yeah.
My gosh. And it's so funny. My teenage daughters, and I talk about this all the time. I have a youngest daughter who's in musical theater. So I think she is in tune with, I think that's probably why those conversations have come up so much, how to be self-aware. And we talk about that a lot, that self-awareness and how many of us are not self-aware. Even when we're on the journey to be more self-aware, sometimes we're not. And so it's just a constant work in progress of reining in what you want to say and focusing on what they need to hear. And my husband says a lot to me, which is so annoying when he's right. He'll say, okay, if you say that or do that or have that, is that going to get you the result that you want? Like, no, but it might make me feel better in the moment. But that's the barometer, because as he's coaching these 18 to 22-year-old young men, if they're missing a kick or missing a throw or a pass or something, missing a tackle, and I'm like, how do you not keep from just losing it on the sidelines? And he's like, well, because I need them the next play. We need them. The team needs them to the next play. We need them at their best. So me berating them doesn't make them be their best. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, that's so annoying that you're right. So it's a constant work in progress for me.
Well, and even, as you're talking about doing it to other people, we do it to ourselves. Like we are, going, oh, why did I do that? I should have known this, or I should have done better.
All the time.
And you just said, like, we need us for the next whatever's coming up on our calendar. We need us to show back up in our business. So if we wouldn't expect other people to perform at a high level after we say something like that, we've got to be really careful when we're doing it. And
it's such a learning lesson too, if you're self-aware. So when I have those communication issues, I think, okay, how could I have done that better? How could I have done that better? And then I try to, because women can stay kind of mired in that. We kind of sit in that, Jessie, my youngest, the musical theater major, will be like, her acting teachers will be like, just sit in your feelings for a while. And that's okay when you're learning how to act. But when you're just trying to get through your journey as a human, sometimes we don't need to sit in our feelings for a while, and we need to take some action. So I think, okay, I maybe messed that up. I didn't communicate. Okay, let me be self-aware and think about that. Now let me see if I can have another communication. Let me see if I can proactively create another communication interaction where I'm better, where I'm doing a better job, and I'm really giving that person what they need. So I'm trying to use it to learn from. And I just don't think we should ever be at the end of that journey. I just think we beat ourselves up a lot. And I hate hurting other people's feelings. And even when it's clearly not intentional, and you just think, gosh, why can't I be better than that? But that's all part of being human. That's part of being a business owner. It's also part of being a female business owner, and a little bit more relational, minded. And it's just all part of the journey. So I think every single interaction, if we let it, will help us be better the next time.
Yeah. And that's really my biggest goal, is just to be a better version of what I've already done. And then not to go backwards. I'm not expecting to be perfect tomorrow. I just want to keep getting better in all areas of my business, my life, etc.
Right.
So as you have built your entrepreneurial, you've been on this journey, what are some ways that you have you been a big goal setter? Like you said, you don't know what you don't know, but like when you started to get it, like, wow, and maybe tell us the moment of when did you start to realize like this could be a real thing? Because I know I had that moment as an entrepreneur thinking this was a hobby, and then all of a sudden I realized, oh no, something's coming up here.
Well, it's interesting because when I can remember some moments in different places along my journey when I started teaching fitness, I can distinctly remember about 3 or 4 months into it, waking up one morning to teach class. And when you first start, you teach every heinous time slot there is possible to teach. So I was probably teaching at 5 a.m. that morning, and I woke up and I remember putting my feet on the floor and going, oh, this is what I was supposed to be doing all along. I can vividly remember that. I know what side of the bed I was sleeping on. I can vividly remember that feeling. I didn't know where it was going to go from there. I just remember thinking, oh, I was supposed to be doing this fitness thing. Okay, cool. And then kind of just continuing moving on. I remember when I auditioned to be a master trainer for some fitness formats, and calling my husband and going, like, this could be a real job. This is
Mm.
not just a hobby now.
Yeah, yeah.
So now I'm going to teach fitness, but I'm going to be able to train other people teach fitness. And this is actually going to be, this is a real job. I
Mhm.
remember that. And I remember starting my online business and kind of doing nothing with it for about 8 months, because
Yeah.
again, you don't know what you don't know. And when I started our business, this space was so new. No one was really doing anything
Yeah, 12
with
years
it.
ago
Yeah.
online, you were definitely one of the first jumping
Yes.
into this world.
Yeah. No one was doing anything, especially in health and fitness. If you were doing anything, it was probably just a physical transformation.
Okay.
There weren't a lot of financial kind of
Mhm.
life transformations. It was they had lost weight, things
Yeah.
like that. And so I, again, didn't know where this could go. And so I didn't do a whole lot with my business for about the first 8 months. And then I happened to be in a room where a mentor was speaking, and I cannot tell you what he said, but I do remember how it made me feel and how it made me start to think about the possibility for this business.
Yeah.
And I remember looking at a colleague and saying, I'm going to take my family to Disney with this business.
Mm.
And it was just all of a sudden the seed got planted that I think I can do something with this. There was
Yeah.
hope now, because before, when you are locked into whether it's teaching high school, coaching football, whatever that is, often your salary is determined by someone else, and
Mhm.
your time is determined by someone else. All the important parts of your life are determined by someone else.
Yeah.
And I thought, there's got to be more here. And we've got these 3 daughters with incredible passions and curiosities of their own. How are we going to help them follow that? And
Yeah.
suddenly, just little bit by like little cracks of light started to come through, like, I think this could be it. And when I made that kind of proclamation at the time, it was, my goals really at that time were like, I just want to buy my shoes I'm using to teach class in at the Y. I want to buy my music.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it was, I think I want to take my family on a vacation, and I think I want to pay for it.
Like
And
start
then,
bigger.
yeah. And then it started to get bigger, and it started to get bigger. And then the goals started to get bigger because your belief starts to get bigger,
Mm.
and you do start to see other people who are also having success. And it doesn't become this thing that it's just you, this
Yeah.
little fitness thing that's just you doing. Now there's actually other people doing it too.
Mhm.
And your belief starts to grow. So your goals start to grow. And I do think, just like any other team, whether it's my husband's football team, a basketball team, or whatever, there are seasons when those teams come together and they create magic together. And it has a lot to do with the leader's vision. Yes, but it also just has to do with the energy and the vibe. They're coming out, and the team comes
Yeah.
together, and magic happens. And that, I think entrepreneurship is sort of the constant journey of always trying to create and recreate that magic,
Mhm.
and always looking for the people who match your energy and your vibe to create and recreate that magic. And you're always looking for them. And some people will come together and win a conference championship, and
Yeah.
and then they'll graduate, and it'll be a while before you do it again. And then they'll come together and, try to recreate the
Mhm.
magic again. And just along the way, as you start to see other, in my case, I think mostly women, put goals on their vision boards,
Yeah.
that's when my goals get even bigger, because
Mhm.
it was super cool for me to set some goals for me and my family.
Yeah.
But now there are women on my team who are setting those kinds of goals for them and their family.
Mm.
And I want them to achieve that. So I'm going to do
Yeah.
everything in my power to help them achieve the goals that they have shared with me that they want to achieve. That's way cooler to me, because the ripple effect is so much bigger.
Oh, I love this. So I wrote down, you said, as your beliefs were growing, because you were seeing that it was possible, your dreams started to grow. That is huge. And we had talked about, you growing up in the Midwest and not really seeing it.
I
And now
know.
you're starting to, and it just
Mhm.
really starts to explode. And I definitely can see that too. I'm very adamant about, surrounding myself with the right people, getting in the
Yes.
right rooms, getting, being at conferences, and just being open to, like, what is everybody doing, and how are they
Yes.
doing this? And I think that's huge, because if you don't have that support system locally, your best friends are not
Mhm.
the friends that are you're living in this world. It's
Yeah.
so important to find those people
Mhm.
virtually and find your tribe, right?
Well, if you're surrounded by people who are kind of playing small and thinking small,
Yeah.
then they're living small, and then you're living small with them.
Yeah.
And, growing up in a small town, there are really amazing people. I had a really great childhood, but there's also a lot of people who've never left that town.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it was when I was growing up, but I just knew I wasn't living in that town my entire life.
Yeah.
Which was not a negative feeling towards that town. I just knew I wasn't living there my entire life.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of people who are okay with that. And I thought, yep, that's not me.
Yeah.
So even though I didn't see a lot of people go out and do anything, I just was like, I'm not staying here.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't see anyone who was an entrepreneur when I was growing up. And I didn't think that was going to be my journey. And then here I am. And so there is this validity. You have to see it to be it, but sometimes you have to be it so someone else can see it. So sometimes it's just you that someone's got to be the one that machete chops their way through the forest. So sometimes that's you. And, I kind of felt like that was a little bit of me for some of these women now. And then you start to gather, and, it's really cool, especially in health and fitness, when you get in a room with other people who I could say, we're going to lock the door and work out for 2 hours. And they're like, yes, let's go. Right. I mean, that's rare. That's not, you're not surrounded by those people all the time. And so when you get in those spaces and they understand that what we do in our workouts actually translates into our lives. And if you can do one more squat and one more push-up and one more lunge, you can probably do just a little bit more in your life too. And it starts to inspire all of it. And then you get around other women who are like, well, I want to take my family to wherever too. And someone goes, oh, well, I guess if I could probably do that too, know, and it's that power in proximity that is so important, whether it's live or whether it's virtual.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. It's like, we have the opportunity now with this online space to have friends all over, and to have that environment and that support. So even if you're like, no, I am going to stay where I am and I'm going to do this. And the nice thing is what you just said, that doesn't mean you can't be the example and show people, like, how powerful is that? Is don't feel like you have to play small or play the game of where you've grown up, but to show them what is possible to really expand that. Oh, that is so powerful. Thank you for sharing that. Now, we're going to be wrapping up soon, but I cannot not ask you a fitness question when I have like this incredible fitness expert on here. So I would love if you have any tips or habits or things I have a lot of moms that listen, a lot of families, a lot of, they're also raising children. So are there any habits or good tips that you'd like to share with them, knowing we're busy entrepreneurs and we're also trying to instill great habits in our children?
Well, yes, I do. It's for moms specifically, and it will quickly make me an fan favorite. My big tip for females especially is you got to get up way earlier than you are probably.
Yeah.
So I'm an empty nester now. We took our youngest one to college in August. So it's just me. Although that's just a term I use so people understand what I mean. I don't consider myself that, because I live here. My husband lives here. Our 2 dogs live here. The nest is not empty. I actually live here. I am a mom in transition. So I don't have children at home, and I am up every day at 5 a.m. Because that concept, that feeling of owning your morning sets the tone for owning your day. Yeah. So the humans who say, I don't have time to do this, yes, actually you do. You just haven't allocated it in the right place. So if you are getting up when your kids are getting up at that exact time, you're already behind the 8 ball. You have to get up before they do. And whether you have a structure in that time or not is completely up to you and what your goals and dreams are. Yeah. Maybe you want to write that novel. Maybe you want to work out. Maybe you just want to sit in quietness for a few moments and eat your breakfast by yourself, whatever that might be. But that 5 a.m., there's something magical about that, because you already start your day with a win. The alarm goes off and you're up and you're like, I am awesome because I am up, and it just gives you this extra time to do with whatever you want to do. And you are ahead of the game from the outset, and you have intentionally started your day from the outset, and that will guide the rest of your day. Then it also naturally, organically leads it to going to bed earlier, which is healthier for you anyway. So it has a lovely little kind of repercussion on the other end of it, that you need to be going to bed earlier anyway, because 99.9% of the time, there are the rare people who are night owl, creative owl. They do their best work at night. But I would say
it's rare.
It's rare.
People
it is
think
rare.
They're the rare. I'm like, no, you probably aren't. You think you are, but you're not.
Correct. I heard Jennifer Lopez say one time that she does a lot of really good work in those kind of wee morning hours. And I thought, well, her body of work actually does stand for itself, doesn't it? She really, okay, J-Lo, we'll go with that. But I think for most of us, being up late lends itself to Netflix and social
Mhm.
media and just stuff that is not making us a better human on this planet.
Yeah.
And if we would just go to bed, we'd probably be a better human on this planet. And then we can get up earlier and research and study after study after study shows how
Mhm.
much more clear and focused we are in the morning. It just is that's how humans are.
Yeah.
So that is my number one tip, to get up. And if you can get up at 5 a.m., I am telling you, it is magical. It is magical. And then my
What time are you going
second,
to sleep roughly?
I want to be asleep by 10.
Okay.
So I am winding down by 9.
Okay. Great.
Winding down by 9, I want to be asleep by 10, lights out by 10.
Okay. Okay, great.
So my other quick tip, again for women,
Yeah.
well, really whoever the North Star is in your home for
Mhm.
parenting, your fitness journey will look different as your parenting journey looks different.
Okay.
So there are seasons in your parenting journey, there are seasons in your fitness journey. And before you got married, or before you had a partner, before you were involved, maybe you could train for marathons. And then you were newly married or had a relationship, and maybe you could still, but maybe they were half marathons. And then you had children, and now you can't even manage to breathe. So you have to understand that as your parenting seasons change, so does your fitness. The common thread needs to be fitness. How it looks will change, and
Mhm.
that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
I used to do the Firm VHS tapes because that's all I had at the time. There were no streaming digital platforms of
Right. Right.
fitness, So it was the Firm VHS tape. It was Cindy Crawford VHS tape, and that's what it was. And then as they went to school, and then I fell into fitness, and working out became my livelihood, which was
Right.
amazing. But it's just going to change, and
Mhm.
expecting yourself to be able to have the time to train for a marathon and have 4 kids and then beat yourself up about it. What a waste of energy on
Yeah.
this planet. Life's too short to be doing that. So just know that your fitness will change as your seasons of parenting change. And there will come a day when you two are a mom or a parent in transition, and you can train for marathons all day long, and you'll wish your house was not so quiet. So
I love this. Julie, this is so good. Thank you so much for jumping on and for joining us. Before we go, where can people find out more about you if they're looking at maybe doing some more fitness and getting that as a priority? Where's the best place to reach you online and everything?
I love Instagram so much.
Okay.
I love that platform.
Me too.
I love it. I love the visualness of it, but I really love the live and the stories. I feel like
Yeah.
people really get to know people. You meet my dogs, you see my love for Disney, like it just all the things. So I love Instagram. So I'm just Julie Voris on Instagram, and
Okay.
my website is the same, julievoris.com. So
Perfect.
I would love to connect on Instagram. It's just my favorite social media platform.
Love this. I know we could talk for hours and hours. Like there's so many things I could keep picking your brain about, but thank you for being here. Thank you for just like giving us that, like these little nuggets that could really impact somebody's day. So I appreciate you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you so much.